right.
Well, there are a lot of neat places in the nation, but why would you want to leave where you are? I mean, a lot of people like that, you know, Philadelphia and the
Yeah.
surrounding area.
I'm trying to plan my retirement now, Rob. So I'm trying to think ahead.
You're already planning to retire, Dan? We
Yes,
need to talk more.
absolutely. Isn't everybody in mortgage always planning their retirement? Except Rob Christman.
Some people think I am retired. This guy Ira Selwyn, he's like a thorn in my side, Dan. I tell you,
We're,
it's
we're
just,
never letting you retire, Rob. It's just
No,
not happening.
no,
you
we're
know,
just gonna keep
Ira
pulling.
Ira will always chime in with some kind of snide comment about whatever it is.
I love
And
it.
oh, here we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
In other words, he's saying game on. He's gonna try his best to keep those snide comments
I
coming.
Ira's nowhere near retirement. I know people, Dan, who have bought places in Florida. Does that interest you at all? Like
I
away from the
love. I would
hurricane?
love to do Florida, but I think when you couple the home price appreciation down there to be on the water with insurance costs, it's pretty insane. And you don't know how insurance is going to rise over the next couple of years too. It's like worse than rents.
What about northern Arizona? You know, no hurricanes, no tornadoes, no earthquakes, all 4 seasons.
Beautiful
Check
up
it
there.
out, Flagstaff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Flagstaff is beautiful.
Yeah. Norris
All
Lake,
right.
Tennessee. Mike, I don't know about that one. We'll have to check it out.
I don't know Norris Lake.
I like it. Okay, I have some trivia for us. Are we
Oh
ready?
boy. All
I
right.
wanted to talk about retirement, but go on.
You want to talk
I want to
about
come back to
retirement?
that topic.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that one later. Is that okay?
No, I come back to it after your trivia.
Okay. All right. So since we've got kind of a marketing theme here, I have a couple of marketing questions for us today. Let's see if our marketing guru, Dan Catinella, can at least come within the realm of
Oh
what this.
boy.
I know. And then Rob, just guess whatever you think, and we'll see how many people in the audience can guess too. All right. So the first question is, back from this data is a little bit old, but it's the last data that I could find on it. So from January, was the traffic with ChatGPT higher or Google higher? Which one do you think?
Search. We're talking about search in unique searches per day.
Yeah, unique searches per day. Overall traffic numbers.
I'm gonna go ChatGPT. It's higher.
Rob, what do you think?
I will respectfully disagree, and I will say Google. Although I use DuckDuckGo, but that's a personal preference. But I'll say Google.
Okay. All right. Look, the chat is just blowing up. We have like equal parts. Google, GPT. I mean, it's like 50-50.
I'm assuming we're counting API calls to ChatGPT in that too. I'm getting real
Oh,
technical now.
yeah, I don't know about that, my friend. Hey, Richard, how are you, my friend?
Thanks, Don.
Okay.
ChatGPT.
All right. So, in January, ChatGPT had 1.6 billion visitors.
Billion?
Billion with a B.
How many people are in the world? How many people live on Earth? Anyway, go on.
The
Sorry.
whole month. There's a
gonna
lot
start
of
to rant
information that
earlier
we need
because
to
that's
know,
what
and
insane.
ChatGPT helps us with that. So
Yeah.
1.6 billion. Do we have a guess how much traffic Google had?
More.
How many visitors? How many visitors they had?
Yeah, I thought it was somewhere around like 2 billion a day, but I could be wrong.
Oh, Steve, you cheater. Steve Googled he Googled the Google question. I love it. Yeah. So 86.57 billion visitors on Google. So Google is still having higher visitors than ChatGPT at this point. But we do have a question from Richard on where in the world is Rob? Are you at a winery?
I am at a winery, so I'm really liquored up at this point. So Dan, that always makes for an entertaining show.
Yeah. Yeah. After
Um,
3 wineries. Yeah.
All right. I
yeah,
might have
I'm
really
I'm through with the tasting menu. I'm about if you looked at a map, I am at Ramsgate Winery, which is north of San Francisco, about 40 minutes. And for NASCAR fans, I can see the NASCAR track where they race in June. The Sonoma, I think it's called the Sonoma Motor Speedway or Sonoma Speedway or something.
okay.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
You gonna
at
go do a
a
dry run?
what's that?
You gonna go do a dry run?
A dry run at the NASCAR track?
Yeah.
No, I'm told you I'm liquored up. But I have driven on that track.
That's awesome.
Anyway, we're really going off the mortgage
We're
path.
we're totally going off track. Yes, we're going off track. I normally try to do these kind of things to get everybody in. For those of you that have not joined us before, we're not crazy. We're not just here to talk about random things. We do have purposeful mortgage content that we always share, but it takes people a few minutes to get in and join us. So we try to fill that time and space with something fun and funny.
I think we should give Dan a softball question to start with.
We should give them a softball.
Dan, what'd you think of that debate last night?
Oh, well, I know
No,
their golf game
Don't
now.
don't answer. You don't have to answer.
That's about the only thing I got out of it. Their handicap.
We oh Lord have mercy. So for those of you that were not here last week, I told Rob that he was banned from all political conversation on the rundown. But we actually probably should talk about a few housing related, very biased, or very non-biased approach to the debate. But before they do that, I want to make sure everybody knows who's on the call. Can I take a moment and intro us?
Of course, you bet.
All right. So if we have not met before, I'm Melissa Langdale, the president and COO of the Mortgage Collaborative. Super excited to have you all here with us on this Friday afternoon. As always, I'm joined by the amazing Rob Chrisman, who happens to be totally liquored up today.
Yeah, 3 sheets to the wind. Here I am.
And this week's very special guest is Dan Catinella. Dan, you are the Chief Lending Officer at Total Expert, and we are thrilled that you are with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we promise to not get too political with things because I won't let Rob go down that road. So if he asks you a question that you don't want to answer, you can just like veto.
I would never do that to Mr. Chrisman.
All right. Well, I do think we need to talk about maybe some of the major housing themes to the debate last night. Rob, do you want to kick us off?
Where do you start? So we can't really, so the political noise, and I try to steer clear in my commentary from too much politics, but the political noise will just continue to mount. And certainly after last night's debate, there was all kinds of talk, the fact that Democrats are searching for somebody else. The experts thinking that Donald Trump had so many false statements that the trackers lost track. But you're right, Melissa. I appreciate you trying to bring this back into the economy and in turn housing. And I will argue, personally speaking, that housing, if it is in a crisis state, and I'm not convinced that we're having a housing crisis, but it's a combination of so many factors that the president may or may not be able to really influence, that it wasn't a big issue. The economy was an issue and inflation was an issue, and the fact that a basket of goods from some years ago now cost 10 or 20% more, depending on what you're buying. But the economy is an issue, and I think the fact that we are producing more oil than ever before kind of got lost in the noise. I think the fact that wages have actually increased, not necessarily in mortgage banking, but wages have increased over the last year or two, kind of got lost in the noise. But it does come back to consumer sentiment and what people feel versus the actual statistics and what they're hearing out there. So, in terms of housing, as I said, I'm sure you know, and Dan knows that housing is is a topic that's influenced by so many factors other than just interest rates. You get into psychology and you get into local politics and you get into immigration policies and who's swinging the hammers out there on the roofs of the new developments that are being built, and so forth and so on. So it's a very complicated issue, and I don't think either presidential candidate is going to come in and tell the Fed to lower rates, because I'm not convinced that the economy needs stimulating per se, although the consumer is weakening a little bit. But for a president to come in and say, well, I'm going to fix housing, I find questionable. Dan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's so many factors that goes into the impact of housing. It's tough to just look at it in a vacuum, but I try to focus, at least personally, more so on some of the strategies that they talk about. You look at some of the things that Biden's talked about with $10,000 credit for first time home buyers, and annual tax credits for $400 a month over a 2-year span, or whatever those things are. And I look at, like, are those the right strategies, and are they actually helping solve some of the affordability challenges that we have in our industry. And then you look at, we do know typically the Democrats going to lean more into regulation, Republicans going to lean more into deregulation. I certainly am not advocating that we have too much regulation in some areas, but we probably do have some too regulated areas in others. And the reality is especially in the independent mortgage banker space, which is where I grew up in my career, it is a bit it's a massive burden to continue to layer and layer on more and more regulation. So I don't know that I got a clear picture one way or the other, to be honest with you, on the impacts to housing and what their real strategies are. But ultimately, I'm not sure I heard a whole lot that I think that either strategy is ultimately going to really relieve some of the challenges that we have in the market. For example, like if I look at a $10,000 credit for a first time home buyer, I'm not sure I see that as a massive benefit to a first time home buyer. I mean, their challenges well before tax season starts, trying to get into that home. It'd be great if you could give that credit up front in some capacity, but
Great if there was
yeah,
inventory for them to buy too. I mean, which is, the credit can only go so far if there's not houses for them to buy too.
yeah, for sure.
It is an interesting topic if you ever want to divide a room up. When you talk about government intervention and pro or con, and there's a big school of thought out there. A lot of people say, oh, less government intervention is important. I want less government intervention, but when it helps them,
For
then
sure.
they want government intervention. Oh, I've got kids with student debt. Oh, well, the government just intervened and relieved their debt or eliminated their debt. Oh, great. Government intervention is great. But when it comes right down to it, I would say in general, more people are in favor of less government intervention. And so, that really resonates with voters.
Yeah.
So
There's something
well,
to be said about free market, for sure. I think the things that I got out of it were both sides have such different approaches to, I mean, if you look at like CFPB, for example, and the way that they regulate, same thing with like the Fannie and Freddie being in conservatorship. And so I think those are the things that in my mind, I really want to keep a close eye on, because those are really big, impactful things to our industry. The inventory problem will not be solved tomorrow. It won't necessarily be solved with a $10,000 tax credit.
Might even be made worse.
It might make it worse. It's going to drive up demand, and then there's still no inventories, and then prices are just going to go up, right? And so all of those sort of things go into play that we just need to have some awareness of. And I know that's not what we had originally planned on talking about today, but because of the debate last night, I thought it would be really valuable for us to chat about for a little bit.
Yeah, I think people on the call will be asked by their clients whether you are a vendor, dealing with business to business contacts, or whether you're a loan officer or owner of a broker shop or owner of an IMB. Your clients will want to know, well, how is the debate, or how are politics going to impact my decision, or this process of buying a home? And I continue to argue that people will want to own a home regardless of who's president.
That's right.
And interest rates figure into it, but plenty of people wanted to buy homes when rates were, 8, 10, 12% way back when.
Yep.
And so it doesn't impact, the president doesn't impact my wanting to own that, quarter acre lot with a white picket fence in a school district that's going to help my kids. Plain and simple. So
Yeah.
life goes on.
All right. Speaking of life going on, let's have our topic go on a little bit. We'll transition over into some fun marketing stuff. Dan, Total Expert just had a phenomenal conference. And y'all had a lot of your customers there. It's your kind of annual user conference. And I had the privilege of going, so I had kind of firsthand experience of how you guys put things on. I think
Was this your first conference?
it was, yeah, it was
Nice.
my first time
Awesome.
coming to the conference. Yeah,
Cool.
it was great. But I think what would be helpful for everybody here, obviously when you have conferences like that, as much as you have a very specific kind of track and, lots of different discussions going on, you hear lots of things in the hallways, and you get a chance to get a really good pulse on what lenders are feeling and how they're navigating the market that we're in, and how they're kind of planning ahead to where things are going. So would love maybe your top 3 takeaways that you had as you got to, roam the halls and talk to lenders and customers. What were some of the big?
Yeah, so just maybe to just set a scale for people that aren't familiar with our annual conference. It was our 4th really big conference. We've done smaller events and things in the past, but this is really our 4th event. So I think just looking at how it's matured over the last couple of years is pretty amazing to see. I used to go to them when I was a customer and was amazed as well. So now that I'm an employee of Total Expert, it's pretty cool to be a part of the event, for sure. So this year we had just shy of 300 individuals participate, about 100 lenders, a lot of IMBs, banks, and credit unions all participated. So it was awesome. But I think the ultimate sentiment is, the people that were there are, my friend Robin Clayton from PRMG basically said it perfectly. Like, these are the survivors in the room. People, and that was threaded throughout the conference of, listen, we all got our teeth kicked in for the last, 2 years. And everybody is very optimistic about where we are. Most IMBs ultimately have shifted from, downsizing and right-sizing their organizations and some massive cost-cutting initiatives to they're really shifting their entire mindset into growth mode. So that is definitely what, kind of one of the key takeaways I got is almost every customer I spoke to was really just doubling down and looking at the investments they're going to make, and really shifting into kind of, from strapping the shutters down to how can we, get this engine moving? What investments should we be making? I would say the majority of the IMBs that I spoke to, all kind of reported profitability in either April and/or May. And they do expect, June and July to be even better. So they're very positive about obviously that outlook. Obviously, everybody's looking at kind of 2 models as they get through the winter as well to make sure that they're planning effectively. If the market stays where it's at, making sure that I have a model to get me through the winter, and then making sure I also have a plan to adjust if the market does, show some relief from a rate standpoint. The second key one is really every lender, I mean, literally every lender is doubling down on data and intelligence. And, that includes AI for sure. But looking at it broadly, and Joe Wellyu, our founder and CEO, he calls it the age of intelligence. And that's really where we are in today is, looking at the investments you can make in data so that you understand your customers at a deeper level. You can deliver the right marketing at the right time. Your originators can have much deeper and more meaningful conversations. You can surface new opportunities to your originators so that they can, maximize conversions and, retain the customer and create loyalty, and really just create a growth engine using their database. And then the third one I would say is relationships and partnerships. They matter. They matter in our industry. This is the only industry I've ever really been in, but I will say that you talk to people from other industries and outside of our industry, and we are a relationship-driven business and industry, and we really take that to heart as a partnership. I mean, it's obvious. One of the main reasons why I signed a Total Expert initially was just the partnership that Joe Wellu showed to me, and he carries that through the entire organization, and it is ingrained into our soul. But we wake up every day. We don't sell software. Ultimately, we really try to get entrenched into our customers' businesses, really understand their business at a deep level, and figure out how can we partner with you to help you grow and win in the market, regardless of what the market throws at us every day. So that came true. I think the partnerships and relationships that are built that accelerate every year are meaningful. It's not just with Total Expert Team. It's we really try to amplify that through our other customers to customers, people that aren't even using our platform, and lenders that are maybe evaluating us, or just other vendor partners out there that we believe are strategic to our partners to help them win better. So it's really meaningful. So I would say those are kind of the three key takeaways that were true throughout the entire conference for sure.
I love it. And 100% agree with you. Relationships are huge. Rob, you look like you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say that I missed out on the age of enlightenment by several centuries, and I've already apparently I'm watching the age of intelligence pass me by. But I will say this, Dan, you raised a very good point that I'm seeing out there, and that are vendors who are dealing with clients, regardless of what that third party provider is providing. After a while, lenders, this is what I'm kind of seeing. Lenders get tired of beating up on their vendor partners for price. Oh, you're trying to sell this to me for $3 a unit, and I can get this unit for $2.50 up the street. And at some point, that gets tiresome. And instead, I'm seeing the conversation shift more to, all right, that's your price. What kind of value can you add?
Yeah.
And vendors and third-party providers are going back to their clients, say, okay, this is our price, but here's what you get. And here are the added benefits. And here's, we've been doing business for X amount of time. And here's our benefit to you. And here's how we can help you. So I think people and companies get tired of a combative kind of experience and dealing with a price per unit or whatever it might be, and switching that to how can we help you? Here's some bundling that we can do. And I think that's very important because, like I said, you do get tired of beating up your vendor counterparties, and, transitioning to something more constructive, I think is very, very important. It sounds like that's what's going on from your perspective.
Yeah, totally, Rob. I think that's a great point. I mean, it's got to be at the end of the day, pricing aside, it's got to be a value-driven conversation for sure, and we focus on that day in and day out. We do actually a lot of analytics on our customers and understand their business outside of even what a customer shares with us, because we do have a lot of data, and we try to really look at how can we optimize this lender's book of business. Where are they missing out on opportunities? Like, to me, that is super meaningful, and that's where you start to go from just a vendor to a strategic partner that's going to help you grow your business. And we really do pride ourselves in trying to really be viewed as that strategic partner.
I think it's so important.
I saw Jeff Briggs' comment up there
Apparently you've
No way
been
in
written
hell.
into the ballot, my friend.
What's that? No,
Been written into
who
the
would
ballot.
ever, who would ever want to run for some kind of grand elected office? I know individuals who I admire greatly, who I've encouraged to say, why don't you run for like city council or some kind of local assembly position or something, because you have a logical mind and you can going back to adding value, you can add value to this. But who would want to subject themselves to any kind of national politics? It's beyond me.
All right, Jeff, I
Anyway,
think that's a no. I'm sorry.
And
Oh
that's
my
why we have the two that's the best we got.
God.
yeah.
Way
Can I
to
get us
sum it
Oh,
back
up.
oh
in
boy.
mortgage? Can I get us back in a mortgage? Oh, Steve thought you meant maybe, by the way, Rob. We'll see. Okay, so I I want to take us back a little bit. You started to talk about AI being a big conversation. I
Mhm.
know y'all had several sessions on fully leveraging technology, but also around kind of increasing utilization, because particularly around marketing platforms and, our every company wants to be able to support their loan officers and help them to grow their business. But the challenge from a company perspective, obviously, is, loan officer A over here wants this very specific platform that they feel like is going to be instrumental to their market and gaining, this great relationship with this brand new agent. And then, LOB over here wants something completely different. And so companies are really struggling with, do I really need seats in both places? How do I kind of streamline things without kind of upsetting our sales team or the impact that they could really have on their local market? So what are some of the steps, I guess, or the advice that you're hearing or that you heard at your conference that may be able to help people to deal with the change management that comes with new technologies, as well as the um, kind of streamlining of systems that companies really need?
Yeah, so I'll touch on a couple things. So one, it's when you're making an investment or you have made an investment and you're looking at your numbers and you're just like, my adoption is not there. I invested in this technology and I can't believe this is all we're getting utilized on it. And especially if you believe in the ROI and the value that it creates for your sales force. But it's got to be, it can't be just a marketing led effort. It's really got to be a combination of combining sales and marketing and making sure that you kind of have a top down approach. Because if you don't have your executive team aligned on the value that this creates, then you're already on a battle of trying to get your sales to engage with there. So some of the best leaders in our industry, the Jalair Grillos out there was a great session that Sue Woodard ran for us around adoption. Is really around making sure that you have your sales executive, your marketing executives, some of your influential regionals, really all rallying around and in belief that this is going to create value for your organization and making sure that everybody is aligned and making sure that you're really following kind of a top-down approach on pushing something out and rallying it. If you have everybody going out and chasing the next shiny object that one of your producers, you're going to end up not doing anything really well. So first and foremost, I always tell everybody, like, look at the technology stack that you already have implemented and make sure that you're investing into making that work before you look elsewhere. But and also, you got to have that top-down approach, engage with your sales managers, get them integrated, let them understand the value that you're trying to drive down, and integrate it into your sales manager's playbook. Every sales manager, branch manager is looking for content to bring to their weekly sales meetings and things of that nature. So make sure that you're giving them bite sizes of information. Don't give them the whole, you know, piece of cake. Give them little slices each week to take back to their teams and say, hey, let's work on this week. Let's work on growing your real estate agent relationships. Let's make sure you know how to generate good co-marketing collateral and you're being proactive when one of your agents lists the home. So there's a lot of little strategies, but bite-size bits that you can distribute out to your organization, and have the sales leaders really orchestrating that is always breeds the most success. So it just doesn't come from your corporate teams from the ivory tower, but get the people in the trenches really rallying around it. And then use your, as you're building successes and you have internal case studies of sorts or success stories, make your top producers the champions. What does every producer inside of an organization want to be? They want to be the top producer. You get those top producers rallying around that initiative and how that technology is helping them support their business and grow their business. That helps really build the internal flywheel because everybody wants to be that top producer. And you can't be afraid to make some of the tough decisions. And that tough decision may be, I'm not going to invest in the next shiny widget. I'm going to double down on the investments we already made and make those things work. So sometimes you got to make those tough decisions, not give your originators every single tool that's out there, but focusing on the ones that you really think are going to provide the highest level of ROI and really move the needle for your organization. And you need to really, lead the story with the value and the growth that it's going to provide, not just, the technology and how to click a button or, what it can do, but really what is the sales strategy and how you're going to wrap that around your existing processes to breed success and growth. And we're getting a lot of focus on integrations, originators. I don't know anybody out there. I've been in the business for 23 years. I've never had success in rolling out 17 different widgets to all my originators and trying to get them to use all of them. So a lot of focus on how can we stitch some of the highest value technologies together. And that's where we're focusing a lot around Total Expert is how do we really build strategic partnerships around our ecosystem so that we really have kind of a single pane of glass that originators can work in and provide more and more value, because we can't innovate and be great at everything that's out there, especially as the MarTech stack has grown significantly. But how can we build seamless integrations so that we continue to provide as much value to our customers as possible and make the originator experience as seamless as possible? It's really important to get adoption as well as making that efficient and easy to use and easy to consume for originators.
And your customer experience consistent and, as a result too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do think, Melissa, like the days of like people trying to manage like 16 CRMs in their organization, like I do see a lot less of that because, forget the security and all that aspect of putting customer data spraying it all over the world. But, it's impossible to be good and have a consistent customer experience that you can measure and continue to innovate and iterate on if you are, spraying all these different systems all over the world and really trying to build a standard, best-in-class customer experience.
Yeah. Okay, Rob, we are at time, and I always throw it over to you for the last question. Any last question, though?
So, Dan, hats off to you, Dan. I think in the last 3 minutes, I heard every marketing term known to man, but I heard a new one from you, and that's a single pane of glass. What does that mean? Single pane of glass.
Yeah. So if I can drive an originator into Total Expert and they can orchestrate things.
Wait a minute, isn't the term guide an originator to Total, not drive, but guide, but go on.
Guide. Yeah, we could guide them. Sometimes you got to drive the originators. I know my people on this call that have to drive originators. Sometimes they got to drive them. But one platform that they can really orchestrate all their sales and marketing efforts in, so you don't have to basically have them logging into 17 different systems and say, hey, yeah, I want to get adoption on all these 17 systems. Just go in the Total Expert. We're going to orchestrate things, whether we can automate it or we give you a very easy way to orchestrate those things through that one single pane of glass.
Okay. Learned something new today, Rob. How about that?
Melissa, I want you to use that term next week.
I will see what I can do to fold it in. We'll see.
Yeah, run it up the flagpole.
Okay.
Let's circle back. Anyway, go on.
All right. Yeah, Audrey says most LOs don't want to be driven. I understand. All right, guys, we are all up at time. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a great conference this week. I'm glad it was a success for you guys. And we love having Total Expert as one of our preferred partners. So happy to have you on and for all the insights that you were able to share with everybody here. And all right, everybody, I hope everybody has a fantastic July 4th weekend, and we will see you right back here next week.
Is this the official July 4th weekend or is that next weekend?
Well, it's Thursday, right? So I don't know.
Yeah,
Which
tough
weekend
call.
do you want to be the official?
Happy 4th.
Choose it.
Let's have a safe and sane 4th.
Okay.
Melissa will be
So
out there with her sparklers.
I will probably be out there with my sparklers. Yep, that's true. I love it. All right. Have a great afternoon,
thank you.
everybody.
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.